Hi, and welcome to Wealth Stories for Sleep.
Here, the idea is simple. While you sleep, you grow richer. We gently send messages of abundance straight into your subconscious through calm stories made to gently guide you to sleep.
Clara lived at the very end of a street where the sidewalk crumbled into patches of mud, and the streetlight above flickered as though it, too, was weary from holding on all night. The house she called home was small, built from bare cement walls. Its green-painted windows, chipped and weathered. The beige curtain in the front room, swaying as if to an invisible breeze, even on windless days. It was a house of almosts, almost new, almost full, almost joyful. And in that house of almost lived a girl with watchful eyes and a silence that seemed to hum with its own secret rhythm. Her name was Clara. She was 9 years old, but she already carried an understanding of life that even grown-ups struggled to name. Her mother, Donna Lucia, was a seamstress who spoke little, her days stitched together by the whir of her sewing machine. Her father had left when Clara was only a whisper of a baby, and since then, everything in their lives seemed to come in halves. Half the meals, half the toys, half the smiles. But Clara didn't complain. She saw life as a fabric still on the loom, imagined whole, even if made from scraps. Every afternoon, after school, Clara would drag the old kitchen stool across the worn tile floor until it reached the tall cupboard. On the highest shelf sat a glass jar without a lid. Inside lay loose market coins, a coiled measuring tape, and a colorful pincushion. From that jar, she would take just one single one-real coin and tiptoe to the broom closet in the back of the house. Hidden in its darkest corner was a small cardboard box wrapped in faded blue gift paper printed with stars that time had almost erased. Inside it, she placed the coin. This was her invisible vault. It was invisible not because it couldn't be seen, but because no one else knew it existed. And to Clara, the secrecy wasn't just for safety, it was part of the magic. She believed that things planted quietly grew stronger. Yet, what made her vault truly special was the way she placed each coin inside. Before adding it, she would hold a coin gently between both hands, close her eyes, and whisper, "You are a seed of gold. One day, you will bloom into the garden of everything I dream." Then, slowly, as though she were planting something alive, she would slip the coin into the box. The broom closet smelled faintly of soap and damp wood. Light barely reached the corner where her little vault rested. Still, to Clara, it was a sacred space. Each coin was not simply money. It was a promise, a possibility waiting for the right moment to arrive. At school, she would listen quietly as other children chattered about new toys, vacations, and shiny cell phones. Clara didn't feel envy. Instead, she felt a steady, quiet calm, as if she already knew her time would come. It was the calm of someone who understood, without anyone having taught her, that what she held inside mattered more than what she could see. One afternoon, her teacher assigned the class a project: write a letter to your future self. Clara took it seriously. Sitting cross-legged on her bed, her purple pencil in hand, she began. "Dear tomorrow, Clara, I know you already live in the house with the blue windows, a yard with a hammock, and a table full of food that smells like love. I know you have books stacked high and that you travel, telling stories to other girls who are also building invisible vaults. You got there because you believed, because you trusted before there was proof, because you never spent the seeds before their time. She folded the letter neatly and placed it next to her little box. She smiled, not because she already had those things, but because she understood that, for now, having the dream was enough. The weeks passed. Each week meant a new coin, a new phrase, a new quiet breath over the box. Prosperity begins in the unseen. Everything planted in trust blooms in its own season. The universe leans toward those who expect good things. They were her own inventions, little truths that seemed to hum through her chest as she said them. And in some strange way, the more she spoke them, the more it felt as though the little box pulsed like a heart of its own. Then, one afternoon, after a light rain, Clara noticed a faint rainbow curving behind the house. It was fragile, barely there, but it was real. She ran to the backyard barefoot. The damp earth cooled beneath her feet. She looked from the rainbow to the box in her hands and whispered, "If you showed up today, it must mean something is already changing." She didn't know how. She didn't know when. But deep inside, she felt the certainty that needed no evidence. The invisible vault was working. Not because she was just saving coins, but because each day she was planting trust. The morning after the rainbow, Clara woke with a peculiar lightness in her chest, as though something had shifted in the night. Everything around her looked exactly the same. The floorboard still creaked in the usual spot when she stepped down from bed. The kettle still whistled at 7 o'clock, but inside there was a quiet glow. It was a kind of faith that didn't need an explanation. At school, her teacher handed out sheets with a single question written in large, bold letters. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Her classmates began scribbling answers. Doctor, soccer player, YouTuber, astronaut. Clara stared at her page for a while. Then, with the calmness of someone planting a flower in the dark, she wrote, "I want to be someone who turns silence into gold." No one else understood, but Clara didn't need them to. That week, her mother came home late, her eyes tired from hours, bent over her sewing machine. Seeing Clara sitting on the floor with her coins, she asked softly, "Why do you keep those little coins? What are you going to buy?" Clara smiled and answered, "I'm not buying anything yet. I'm practicing with the universe." Her mother chuckled, not fully understanding, but something in her daughter's voice made her pause, as if there was a truth hidden inside it. Later, Clara took the box to the backyard and sat on the damp grass. The sky was gray, but she closed her eyes, and when she did, the world changed. She imagined herself in a place where the ground shimmered like golden wheat under the sun, where children laughed without hurry, and the trees gave out books instead of fruit. In that place, there was a blue bench where she sat holding her vault, and all the coins inside began to multiply effortlessly, joyfully, as if they were alive in that imagined garden. Clara was rich. Not rich in the way grown-ups talked about, but rich with time, with choices, with freedom. And every time she opened her eyes again, she felt as though she had carried a little of that golden place back into her real life. Wealth begins in the thoughts no one else can see, she whispered to herself, the phrase settling into her like a secret promise. That night, Clara dreamed of a street market, the kind with the smell of fried pastries and the hum of voices weaving through narrow aisles. But in this dream, there were no ordinary stalls. Each one sold something invisible. One offered hope, another sold courage. And right in the center was a small stand with a wooden sign that read, "Belief in yourself." Clara approached and offered one of her vault's coins. The woman behind the counter, an old figure with eyes that shone like they'd seen every dream ever dreamed, accepted the coin, smiling. "This is worth more than it looks," she said, handing Clara a small, golden key. The key had no lock to match, but the woman leaned forward and whispered, "This opens everything you haven't yet imagined." When Clara woke, she ran to the broom closet. The key from the dream wasn't there, but she felt it all the same, invisible, but hers. And in her heart, she knew it was already working. The following week at school, she began helping her classmates write letters to their own futures. Their dreams were simple: a bicycle, a trip to the sea, a father's return. Clara collected the letters in a shoebox decorated with paper stars and called it the box of guarded dreams. "When you protect someone else's dream," she told them, "the universe protects yours." Over time, the box became the class's shared secret. Every week, new letters slipped inside. And meanwhile, in the broom closet, Clara's invisible vault grew heavier, not only with coins, but with the meaning she poured into them. She began to write her phrases along the sides of the box in purple ink. "Everything invisible today can be visible tomorrow. My trust creates my reality. Life meets me where my belief lives." Though nothing obvious had changed, Clara noticed the air in their home felt lighter. Her mother began receiving more sewing orders. A grateful client gifted her a brand new sewing machine. Even the flickering streetlight outside seemed to glow steady through the night. The muddy sidewalk dried quicker after rains, and the beige curtain in the window swayed like it was dancing to music only it could hear. She never spoke of it to anyone, but every time she placed a coin in the box, she whispered with certainty, "The universe hears me." Close your eyes gently now. Let your entire body release and soften. Feel each muscle let go, from the tips of your toes to the crown of your head. Take a slow, deep breath, and imagine yourself traveling to a place where dreams are not distant wishes, but living things already on their way to you. There, you see a young woman, Maya, 28 years old, walking slowly across a sunlit meadow. The grass ripples in gentle waves as the breeze passes through. Her wavy brown hair dances in that breeze, and her eyes shine with a calm yet certain determination. Trotting beside her with a joyful, almost knowing energy is Thor, her golden retriever, his coat shimmering as if it captures the sunlight in every strand. Maya stops in the middle of the open land. She places her hands on her hips and turns slowly, taking in the space all around her. "So, Thor," she says, her voice full of both excitement and absolute certainty, "this is where we'll build our dream home." Thor's tail sweeps the air like a golden flag of joy. He spins in happy circles around her, barking softly as though agreeing with every word. Maya laughs, a clear, ringing laugh that blends perfectly with the hum of the warm air. "I can already see where every room will be." She continues, walking slowly over the land while Thor follows, pausing now and then to sniff the earth. She stretches her arms as if touching invisible walls. "Over there will be our kitchen," with a big window that looks out onto the garden where you'll play every day. As she speaks, something happens, a shimmer in the air, subtle but undeniable. For a moment, you can almost see the kitchen. She envisions white marble counters catching the light, warm wooden cabinets, a large island where she prepared meals while watching Thor outside. The picture is so vivid that it feels almost real, you know? Thor, she says, crouching to run her fingers through the fur on his head. For years I thought a home like this was out of reach. I told myself things like, Maya, you don't have enough money, or Maya, you don't deserve that, or Maya, things like that are for lucky people, not you. Thor tilts his head, his deep brown eyes locked on hers as if urging her to go on. But then I learned something, she says softly, as if telling him a secret. Our mind is like a garden, and for years I was planting seeds of lack and doubt, and, of course, that's what grew. But then I decided to plant different seeds. I began to see myself as someone who is already prosperous, who naturally attracts abundance, who deserves beauty and comfort simply because I exist. And everything started to shift. Her steps carry her toward where the living room will be. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. You can almost feel it, a golden warmth radiating from her, as though she is tuning herself to a frequency only she can hear. Every night before sleep, she whispers, I imagine myself already living here. I feel the cool floor under my bare feet. I smell the flowers from the garden drifting in through the open windows. I hear your steady breathing, Thor, as you sleep in your favorite corner. Thor, as if catching her mood, lies down on the grass. Beside her, Maya sits next to him, running her fingers through his soft fur. And you know what happened once I started doing this every night? Opportunities began showing up that I couldn't have imagined before. A freelance project that paid 3 times my old salary. An investment that multiplied effortlessly. People showing up with exactly what I needed, right when I needed it. She opens her eyes now, and they shine with unshakable certainty. I realized prosperity doesn't come from desperate effort or a constant worry. It's a state of being, a vibration you choose and maintain, even before it shows up in the physical. Walking toward the place she's marked in her mind as the master bedroom, she says, here's where we'll have our big, comfortable bed. And yes, Thor, you can climb up on Sunday mornings for cuddles. Key lies back on the grass, looking up at the blue sky, her voice slowing to match the rhythm of the day. And here's what else I've learned. Gratitude is the fastest path to abundance. Every morning, I thank life for what I already have. I thank it for you, Thor, for your loyal heart and endless joy. I thank it for my health, for my creativity, for my ability to dream and to create. I thank it for clean water, for the roof over my head, for the food that nourishes me. Her voice drops to a gentle murmur, and then I add gratitude for what's on its way. I thank life for this house as if it's already mine. I thank it for the mornings I wake here, the meals I prepare in that kitchen, the quiet nights we'll spend together in this safe, beautiful space. The sun dips lower, bathing them both in light the color of warm honey. Thor's breathing slows. Maya's eyes half close. I used to think dreaming of material things was shallow, she says softly. Now I understand, wanting to expand into beauty and comfort is simply life wanting to grow through me. And when I desire this home, it's not from greed. It's because I know that here I'll be inspired to create even more beauty for the world, to give more generously, to live with more joy. The sky above the meadow begins to shift into shades of peach and rose. Thor has stretched out beside Maya, his head resting on her arm, his golden fur glowing in the fading light. Maya's voice slows even more, now almost a lullaby. You know, what changed everything, Thor? It was when I stopped relating to money as something hard to get, as something that could only arrive through struggle. I began to see money as energy, as a current that flows naturally when you're open to it. I started to understand that I have value to offer. My creativity has value. My dedication has value. My way of solving problems, my kindness, my ability to make spaces beautiful. They're all valuable. And when I recognize my value, the universe mirrors it back. Thor gives a small, content sigh. Maya keeps stroking his fur in slow, rhythmic movements. So I began affirming each day. I am a natural magnet for prosperity. Money flows to me easily and consistently. I deserve abundance in every area of my life. I am grateful for the wealth I already have, and for the wealth on its way. Voice softens further, the words wrapping around you like a warm blanket, and something remarkable happened. My relationship with work shifted completely. I no longer worked from a place of fear or urgency. I worked from inspiration, from joy. And when you act from inspiration, success stops being something you chase. It's something that finds you. Night folds gently over the land now. The stars begin to appear, one by one, like promises being lit in the distance. Maya and Thor are lying in the exact spot where the garden of the dream house will grow. The night air is warm, scented with grass and wildflowers. Every night, she says softly, I program my subconscious before I sleep. I tell it, while I rest, integrate fully my prosperous identity, dissolve any beliefs that limit abundance, activate my natural magnetism for opportunities. Thor is almost asleep now, his breathing deep and steady. Maya whispers on, her tone both soothing and certain. As I sleep, my subconscious aligns. Every thought, every feeling, every action with the vibration of prosperity. I wake each morning more confident, more creative, more magnetic to abundance. My subconscious works tirelessly while I dream, creating pathways for money, ideas, and joy to flow into my life naturally. She leans closer to Thor, speaking as though sharing a secret just for him. And you, my loyal friend, are part of this abundance. You draw generous people to us. Your joyful energy attracts experiences that make our lives richer in ways far beyond money. Silence wraps around them, broken only by the hum of crickets and the soft rustle of the grass in the night breeze. Maya gazes up at the sky, the stars above twinkling as if in agreement. I can feel our house taking shape, Thor. Every brick, every beam, every window is already here in the unseen. And because I can feel it now, I know it must come. I don't need to force it. I only need to stay aligned with how it feels, to already live there. Her voice drops to an almost inaudible whisper. Tomorrow, I will wake with more clarity. Tomorrow, I will know the next step without strain or doubt. I will be guided, and I will follow with ease. Closes her eyes, a serene smile touching her lips. Here's the greatest secret I've learned, Thor. Prosperity isn't something that happens to me. It's something that flows through me. I don't need to chase it. I only need to become an open channel for it. And tonight, as I sleep, the current grows stronger. Thor is dreaming now, his paws twitching as though running. Maybe, in his dream, he's racing through the green grass of their finished backyard. And in Maya's dream, she's walking barefoot across the cool floor of her kitchen. Sunlight spilling through the big window, hearing Thor's happy bark outside. In both their dreams, the house is complete, the life is abundant, and the joy is effortless. Maya's final words float into the night air, a blessing to herself, to Thor, and to anyone listening. I sleep in prosperity. I dream in abundance. I wake renewed, aligned, and ready for more. And as they drift into deep, peaceful sleep under the wide, star-filled sky, you feel it too, the quiet certainty that your own dream, whatever it is already on its way. Sophia watched with fascination as her grandmother gently smoothed the edges of her clay vase. Grandma, why do you say this is the most important part? Because, my love, her grandmother said with a warm smile, the finishing touches are given with pure gratitude and love. It's the moment when you celebrate what you've created, when you bless your creation. And that is very powerful. Hina guided Sophia's small hands, showing her how to softly smooth the rim of her little vase. Life works the same way. When you appreciate what you already have, when you feel grateful for the good things in your life, you naturally attract even more things to be grateful for. How does that work, Grandma? Sophia asked, her voice full of curiosity. It's simple, dear. Gratitude is like a magical magnet. When you appreciate your family, your friends, your home, your toys, you're sending a message to the universe saying, I love these good things. And the universe responds by sending you more good things to love. Sophia thought about this as she carefully finished smoothing her vase. So, if I say thank you for Pipika every day, I can get even more things to be thankful for about him. Exactly, Helena chuckled. Maybe he'll learn new tricks. Or maybe you'll share even more fun adventures together. Gratitude opens the door to more joy. The two of them finished their vases and placed them carefully on a shelf to dry. The workshop was now bathed in the soft light of late afternoon, casting long, comforting shadows across the wooden floor. Grandma, Sophia said, as she washed her hands in the basin, when I grow up, I want to be wise, like you. Helena dried her hands on a soft cotton towel and pulled her granddaughter into a gentle embrace. My love, you are already very wise. Wisdom doesn't come from age. It comes from the willingness to learn, to ask questions, to keep your heart open. And you already have all of that. Even when I throw a tantrum or get mad. Especially when you throw a tantrum or get mad, Grandma said with a soft laugh. Because those moments teach you about yourself. They help you discover what you truly want. And they give you the chance to practice choosing better thoughts. Sophia curled up on her grandmother's lap in the rocking chair by the window. Outside, the garden glowed gold under the fading sunlight, and the soft songs of birds preparing for sleep floated through the warm air. "Grandma, tell me more about choosing better thoughts," Sophia asked, her voice growing sleepier. "Oh, my dear," Helena whispered, rocking her gently. "Choosing better thoughts is like picking beautiful clothes for your mind to wear. Every day when you wake up, you can decide, today, I will wear thoughts that make me feel happy, brave, and loved. And what if I forget? There's no problem at all if you forget, my love. When you notice you're wearing thoughts that don't make you feel good, you simply choose others. It's just like changing clothes. You don't get upset with yourself for wearing something uncomfortable. You simply change into something better." The rocking chair creaked softly, its rhythm blending with the peaceful sounds of the evening. Sophia was already halfway to dreaming, held safely in her grandmother's warm arms. "Do you remember what we learned today while making the vases?" Helena whispered. Sophia murmured sleepily, "that things flow better when we're happy." "That's right. And that you attract things that match how you're feeling, and that gratitude is a magic magnet." "Exactly, my love. And that you are unique and special, just as you are. And that even when bad things happen, something good can grow from them." "Very good, my wise little one. And that when you imagine good things with joy, you are helping the universe create them." Sophia was almost fully asleep now, her breathing slow and deep. Helena kept rocking her gently, her voice becoming softer with every word. "Now, as you sleep, my love, your dreams will be like a magical workshop where you can create anything you wish. You can dream of blooming gardens, of exciting adventures, of moments of pure joy. And when you wake tomorrow, you'll remember that you have the power to choose thoughts that make you feel good. You'll remember that you are like a magnet, attracting beautiful experiences whenever you are happy and grateful." The daylight faded into the soft blue of evening. The workshop was at peace, with the two vases resting quietly on the shelf, each perfect in its own way, just as Sophia was perfect exactly as she was. "Sleep, knowing that you are deeply loved, my dear," Grandma whispered, placing a gentle kiss on Sophia's forehead. "Sleep knowing that the world is full of wonderful possibilities waiting for you. And sleep knowing that, just like our clay became beautiful vases today, you are always becoming the amazing person you came here to be." The sound of the rocking chair grew fainter, mingling with a gentle chorus of crickets beginning their nightly song, and Sophia drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, cradled by her grandmother's infinite love and the quiet wisdom that now lived within her dreams. "Sleep well, little dreamer. Sleep well." The warm, golden light of late afternoon spilled gently through the wide window of the small pottery workshop. Dust particles floated lazily in the air, shimmering as they drifted, and the faint scent of wet clay filled the space like an earthy perfume. On the long wooden table, two unfinished vases rested side by side, each one holding the marks of careful, loving hands. Sophia sat with her little legs swinging beneath the high stool, her small fingers smudged with bits of clay. Across from her, Helena, her grandmother, leaned forward, her movements slow, steady, and deliberate. She pressed her thumbs gently along the rim of her vase, smoothing the edge in small, graceful circles. Sophia watched, mesmerized. "Grandma, why do you always say this is the most important part?" she asked, tilting her head like a curious little bird. Helena smiled, her eyes warm with patience. "Because, my love, The final touches are given with pure gratitude and love. It's when you celebrate what you've created, when you bless your creation. And that, my dear, is very powerful. Her voice was soft but steady, carrying a weight of wisdom that seemed to settle into the air. She reached for Sophia's small vase and showed her how to run her fingertips lightly over the rim. In life, Helena continued, it's the same. When you take a moment to appreciate what you already have, when you feel truly grateful for the good things in your life, you invite even more things to be grateful for. Sophia's brow furrowed in thought. How does that work, Grandma? It's simple, sweetheart, Helena said, still smoothing the clay. Gratitude is like a magic magnet. When you appreciate your family, your friends, your home, your toys, you're sending a message to the universe. I like these good things. And the universe answers back by sending you more good things to like. Sophia's lips curved into a little smile as she shaped her vase. So, if I say thank you for Pipaka every single day, could I have even more things to thank him for? She asked, referring to her scruffy little puppy with a wagging tail and endless energy. Exactly, Helena chuckled softly. Maybe he'll learn new tricks. Or maybe you'll have even more fun adventures together. Gratitude opens the door to more joy. The workshop was quiet, except for the gentle sounds of clay being worked, the faint creak of wood, the whisper of hands smoothing surfaces. Outside, the sun was lowering, stretching long shadows across the garden. When they were finished, they carefully placed both vases on the high drying shelf. The light filtering in from the window wrapped the room in a warm, honey-like glow. Grandma, Sophia said, as she rinsed her hands in the cool water of a small basin, when I grow up, I want to be wise like you. Helena dried her hands on a soft cotton cloth and then opened her arms wide. My love, you are already very wise. Wisdom doesn't come only from age. It comes from wanting to learn, from asking questions, from keeping your heart open. And you have all of that? Sophia tilted her head again, as if weighing those words. Even when I throw a tantrum or get really mad, especially then, Helena said with a little laugh, her eyes sparkling. Because those moments teach you about yourself. They help you understand what you really want, and they give you the chance to practice choosing better thoughts. Sophia climbed into her grandmother's lap, curling against her like a kitten seeking warmth. They sat together in the old rocking chair by the window, the gentle motion back and forth blending with the soft hum of the evening air. Outside, the garden glowed in amber light. The leaves whispered softly in the breeze, and somewhere a bird sang its final notes before nightfall. Tell me more about choosing better thoughts, Sophia murmured, her voice slowing, her eyelids growing heavier. Helena brushed a strand of hair from her granddaughter's forehead. Choosing better thoughts is like choosing beautiful clothes for your mind to wear. Every morning you can decide, today I will wear thoughts that make me feel happy, brave, and loved. Sophia's lips curved in a small smile. And if I forget, Helena kissed her forehead. That's perfectly fine when you notice. You're wearing thoughts that don't feel good. You simply change them, just like changing clothes. You don't blame yourself for wearing something uncomfortable. You just swap it for something better. The chair creaked softly as it moved. The air in the workshop had grown cooler now, touched by the first hints of night. Helena's voice became slower, gentler, wrapping Sophia in a cocoon of warmth and safety. The gentle rocking of the chair continued, each creak and sway matching the rhythm of Sophia's slow breathing. The fading sunlight painted the wooden floor in stripes of amber and shadow, and the faint scent of clay still lingered in the air, mixing with the fragrance of the jasmine that climbed outside the window. Helena spoke again, her voice like a lullaby. "Do you remember what we learned today, making our vases?" Sophia, eyes half closed, murmured that things flow better when we're happy. "That's right," Helena said, her fingers brushing over Sophia's small hands. "And that you attract things that match how you're feeling, and that gratitude is a magic magnet." Sophia added, a sleepy smile forming on her lips. "Exactly, my love. And that you are unique and special exactly as you are." Sophia shifted slightly in her grandmother's lap. "Even when bad things happen, there's always something good that can grow from them," she whispered, as if repeating a secret. Helena smiled and kissed the top of her granddaughter's head. "You remember everything, my wise little one. And yes, even in difficult times, there's always a seed of something beautiful waiting to grow. When you imagine good things with joy, you help the universe create them." Sophia's breathing grew slower, her body sinking into the safety of her grandmother's embrace. Outside, the sky was turning from gold to a deep, soft blue. The first stars were beginning to appear, small points of light scattered across the heavens. "Now," Helena continued softly, "while you sleep tonight, your dreams will be like a magical workshop where you can create anything you wish. You might dream of colorful gardens, of exciting adventures, of moments filled with pure joy." Sophia's voice was now barely a whisper. "And when I wake up?" "When you wake up tomorrow," Helena said, "you'll remember that you have the power to choose thoughts that make you feel good. You'll remember that you're like a magnet, attracting beautiful experiences when you are happy and grateful." The rocking chair slowed just a little, but still moved gently. The sound of crickets began to rise from the garden, blending with the faint rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. The pottery workshop felt like its own small world, protected and calm, as if time itself had decided to rest here. The two vases on the drying shelf stood side by side, catching the dim light from the window. One was taller and more elegant, the other smaller and rounder, yet both were perfect in their own way. Just like Helena and Sophia, they were made from the same clay, but shaped by different hands, carrying their own beauty and story. Helena spoke again, her voice lower now, as if speaking directly into Sophia's dreams. "Sleep knowing that you are deeply loved, my darling. Sleep knowing that the world is full of wonderful possibilities waiting for you. And remember, just as our clay became beautiful vases today, you are always becoming the incredible person you were meant to be." The chair's motion became slower still. Outside, the night deepened, wrapping the garden in velvet shadows. Fireflies began to glow in the darkness, blinking softly like tiny golden lanterns. Helena kept rocking, her eyes half closed, feeling the warmth of Sophia's small body curled in her arms. She knew her granddaughter was already far away in dreams, dreams shaped by love, gratitude, and the quiet wisdom they had shared. And so, the workshop remained bathed in peace, the clay resting, the tools silent, the night embracing the world. Rocking chair now moved in the slowest rhythm, as if it had learned to follow the quiet pulse of the night. The air inside the workshop was warm and still, carrying with it the last breath of the day. Helena kept her arms around Sophia, feeling the gentle rise and fall of her chest with each slow breath through the open window. The fragrance of night-blooming flowers drifted in jasmine, gardenia, and the faint sweetness of honeysuckle. The soft hum of crickets played in the background, a song that seemed to stretch endlessly, weaving the night together. Somewhere far away, an owl called, its voice low and steady, like a keeper of ancient secrets. Helena looked toward the shelf, where the two vases rested. In the dim moonlight, they glowed faintly. The curves and lines they had shaped together earlier now holding not just clay, but the memory of the day, the laughter, the patience, the gentle lessons, the love that had flowed into every touch. She imagined these vases would last for years, perhaps decades, carrying with them the quiet story of this golden afternoon. Her gaze returned to Sophia. The child's face was calm, her small lips slightly parted, her lashes casting delicate shadows. On her cheeks, Helena brushed a loose strand of hair from her forehead and whispered so softly that only the night could hear, "You are my joy. You are my blessing." The words felt like tiny seeds she was planting in Sophia's dreams, seeds of love, confidence, and gratitude that would grow as the years passed. She knew the girl would face her own storms one day, but she also knew that tonight she was, filling her with roots strong enough to hold her steady, no matter the winds. Outside, the stars multiplied, scattered across the sky in clusters and trails. Helena imagined each one as a possibility, a future moment of happiness waiting for Sophia. To reach it, she believed with all her heart that when you live with gratitude, the path to those stars becomes easier to find. She rocked a little longer, letting the chair's gentle creak blend with the rhythm of Sophia's breathing. Her own eyes began to close, her mind floating in that peaceful place between wakefulness and dreams. She pictured Sophia running through a sunlit meadow, her laughter ringing in the air, surrounded by blooming flowers and endless skies. The workshop was completely at rest now, the tools set neatly in their places. The clay was quiet, and the moonlight painted soft silver patterns on the floor. It felt like the whole world had slowed down to listen to this one moment. The quiet love of a grandmother holding her sleeping granddaughter. Helena finally whispered her last words of the night. "Sleep well, my little dreamer. Sleep knowing you are loved beyond measure. Sleep knowing you carry a light that no one else in the world can give. And when morning comes, let that light guide you toward all the beauty life has waiting." The chair swayed one last time, then came to rest. The night outside wrapped the house in its dark, comforting blanket. And in the stillness, Sophia slept on, cradled by warmth, guarded by love, and surrounded by the quiet magic of a world that was already shaping beautiful things for her future. The soft, golden light of a late afternoon poured gently through the small, square windows of the pottery workshop. Dust motes floated lazily in the warm air, dancing in slow circles, as if they too were in no hurry to leave. The scent of damp clay mingled with the faint aroma of lavender that drifted from a small sachet hanging on the wall. It was a quiet kind of magic. It's a sort of stillness that wraps around you like a warm blanket, at the long wooden table in the center of the room. Little Sophia sat with her small hands cupping a half-formed vase. Her dark curls tumbled forward as she leaned over, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration. Across from her, Helena, her grandmother, worked slowly, her fingers gliding with ease over the smooth curves of her own vase. There was a grace to her movements, as if every touch carried years of wisdom and love. Sophia watched intently as Helena's hands moved, the clay yielding under her gentle pressure. "Grandma," Sophia asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and awe, "why do you always say the edges are the most important part?" Helena smiled softly, not looking up from her work. "Because, my love, the finishing touches are given with pure gratitude and love. The moment when you celebrate what you've created, when you bless it, end it," she added with a little wink, "is very powerful." Sophia tilted her head, her fingers hesitating as she traced the uneven rim of her own little vase. She could feel the clay cool against her skin, slightly damp and pliable. "Powerful. Like magic?" she asked. "Exactly like magic," Helena replied, finally meeting her granddaughter's gaze. "In life, it's much the same. When you appreciate what you already have, when you feel grateful for the good things in your life, you invite even more things to be grateful for. Gratitude." She paused, smoothing her vase with a delicate sweep of her palm, "is a magnet for joy." Sophia's eyes widened. "A magnet, a key." "Yes," Helena said, nodding with certainty. "When you treasure your family, your friends, your home, your toys, you're sending a message to the universe. You're saying, 'I love these good things.' And the universe, it listens. It answers back by sending you even more good things to love." Sophia thought about this in silence for a moment, the only sound in the room being the gentle scrape of fingers over clay and the creak of the old wooden table. Then she smiled suddenly. "So, if I say thank you for Pipulka every day," Pipulka was her fluffy little dog, "then I might get more good things about him." "Exactly," Helena said, her voice warm. "Maybe he'll learn new tricks, or maybe you'll have even more fun adventures together. Gratitude opens a door for more happiness." The two of them continued working in companionable quiet, shaping and smoothing, creating and adjusting. The sun dipped lower, painting the room in shades of amber and rose. Long, gentle shadows stretched across the floor. Outside, the garden swayed in a slow breeze, the flowers nodding as if they were part of this peaceful rhythm. When the last touch was done, they carefully placed their vases on a wooden shelf near the window to dry. Helena's was tall and elegant. Sophia's was small, a little uneven, but full of personality. "Perfect," Helena whispered, and she meant it for both the vase and the girl who had made it. "Grandma," Sophia said, as she rinsed her clay covered hands in the cool water of the basin, "when I grow up, I want to be wise like you." Helena dried her hands on a soft cotton towel and turned to her granddaughter with a tender smile. She knelt so their eyes were level. "My love," she said softly, "you're already very wise. Wisdom doesn't come from age. It comes from the willingness to learn, to ask questions, to keep your heart open. And you have all of that." Sophia's lips curled into a shy smile. "Even when I get mad or throw a tantrum." Helena chuckled, her laughter warm and light. "Especially then," she said, "because those moments teach you about yourself. They help you discover what you really want, and they give you the chance to practice choosing better thoughts. Sophia thought about that for a long moment, her gaze drifting to the gentle sway of the curtain in the breeze. Helena stood, then reached for her granddaughter's hand. "Come," she said, guiding her to the old rocking chair by the window, the one with the faded floral cushion that had seen decades of sun and stories. Sophia climbed onto her grandmother's lap, curling into her like a small bird finding its nest. Outside, the golden garden was softening into twilight. The birds' evening songs drifted in, slow and sweet. Helena began to rock, the rhythmic creak of the chair blending with the soft sounds of the evening. She looked down at Sophia, whose eyelids were already growing heavy. "Now, my dear," she whispered, "let's talk about choosing better thoughts." Helena's voice was slow and steady, each word carrying the softness of a lullaby. "Choosing better thoughts," she began, "is like choosing the nicest clothes for your mind to wear. Every morning when you wake up, you can decide what kind of thoughts you want to put on. Thoughts that make you feel happy, brave, loved." Sophia tilted her head back slightly, resting it against her grandmother's shoulder. "But what if I forget?" she asked, her voice so small it was almost lost in the hum of the evening. Helena brushed a curl away from her granddaughter's forehead. "That's all right, my love. Forgetting is part of being human. The important thing is that when you notice you're wearing thoughts that don't feel good, you simply change them the same way you'd change clothes that are too tight or uncomfortable. You don't get upset about wearing the wrong sweater, do you? You just take it off and put on one that makes you feel better." Kia giggled softly at the idea of wrong sweaters for the mind. She imagined wearing a sweater made of scratchy wool whenever she was upset, and changing into a soft, cozy one when she was happy again. The chair creaked gently as they rocked, back and forth, back and forth. Outside, the light was fading, and the deepening sky was brushed with soft strokes of lavender and pink. The scent of blooming jasmine drifted through the open window, wrapping the room in a delicate perfume. "Do you remember what we learned today while making our vases?" Helena asked quietly. Sophia's eyes were half closed, but she murmured that things flow better when we're happy. "That's right," Helena said, her lips curving into a smile. "And that you attract things that match how you're feeling." Sophia shifted slightly, her voice growing slower as sleep began to pull at her. "And that gratitude is a magic magnet." "Exactly, my dear." Helena's hand moved in slow, comforting circles over Sophia's back. "And that you are unique and special, exactly as you are." Sophia gave a tiny sigh, her breathing deepening. Helena continued, her voice even softer now. "And that even when something bad happens, there is always something good that can grow from it." "Yes," Sophia whispered dreamily. "And that when you imagine good things with joy, you help the universe create them." Came the sleepy reply. The room seemed to grow quieter with every breath. The only sounds now were the steady rhythm of the rocking chair, the distant chirp of crickets starting their night song, and the gentle exhale of Sophia's breathing. The golden glow in the room faded into the cool blue of early night. Helena leaned down slightly, her lips close to Sophia's ear. "Now, while you sleep, your dreams will be like a magical workshop," she whispered. "A place where you can create anything you want. You might dream of colorful gardens, of exciting adventures, of moments so full of joy that they make you smile even after you wake up. Sophia's head grew heavier against her grandmother's shoulder. Her little fingers, which had been resting on the arm of the chair, slowly curled into Helena's hand. And when morning comes, Helena continued, you will remember that you have the power to choose thoughts that make you feel good. You will remember that you are like a magnet, attracting beautiful experiences when you are happy and grateful. The rocking continued, the motion as slow as the fading heartbeat of the day. Outside, the stars began to prick the sky, one by one. Somewhere far away, a night bird called. In that safe, timeless space, Sophia drifted deeper into sleep, carrying with her the soft treasures of her grandmother's words. The workshop was now wrapped in the quiet stillness that only evening can bring. The two vases they had made together rested peacefully on the shelf, their shapes unique yet harmonious, each holding the gentle fingerprints of the day's work. The clay, once cold and shapeless, now stood with purpose, waiting for tomorrow's sun to dry it completely. Helena looked at them and smiled to herself. Just like us, she thought, always taking shape, always becoming. The rocking chair swayed gently, and with every movement, Sophia's breathing grew deeper, steadier. Outside, the garden was bathed in silver light as the moon began its slow rise over the rooftops. The flowers seemed to bow their heads in the cool night air, and the leaves whispered to one another in the language only they knew. Helena kept her voice soft and steady, a thread of comfort weaving through the night. Sleep knowing you are deeply loved, my dear one, she murmured. Sleep knowing that the world is full of wonderful possibilities waiting for you. The rhythm of her words was like the gentle tide of an ocean, carrying Sophia further into her dreams. And sleep knowing that, just as our clay transformed into these beautiful vases today, you are always transforming into the incredible person you came here to be. The rocking slowed, but did not stop, each creak a lullaby in itself. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of a small stream could be heard, its waters moving steadily, as if time itself was flowing gently through the night. Helena pressed a kiss to Sophia's forehead, letting it linger for a moment. May your dreams tonight be full of colors and light, she whispered, full of laughter and kindness, full of the joy of knowing you are enough, exactly as you are. Sophia's hand twitched slightly in sleep, and her lips curved into the smallest of smiles, as though the promise of her grandmother's words had already found a place in her dreams. The night outside deepened. Stars multiplied across the sky, their light spilling quietly into the room. The shadows on the walls shifted softly with the breeze, as though they, too, were settling in for rest. Helena stayed with her granddaughter, holding her close, letting the warmth of their bond be the last thing Sophia felt before sinking into the deepest part of sleep. In her heart, Helena knew that these moments, the simple ones, wrapped in love and quiet wisdom, were the ones that shaped a soul the most. And so, in the stillness of the night, surrounded by the scent of jasmine and the hum of crickets, Sophia dreamed. She dreamed of gardens that bloomed endlessly, of adventures where she laughed until her cheeks hurt, of days where every little thing felt touched by magic. And in her dreams, somewhere between the starlight and the sound of the rocking chair, she carried her grandmother's voice, gentle, steady, and full of love reminding her that gratitude was her magic magnet, that joy was her compass, and that she already had everything she needed to live a beautiful life. The world outside continued to turn, but inside that little workshop, time seemed to pause, holding them in a bubble of pure, quiet peace. And Sophia slept on, safe in the arms of love. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself breathing in slowly, letting the air fill your lungs like a gentle tide rolling into the shore. Hold it, and then exhale, feeling the weight of the day begin to dissolve. Each breath is like a soft wave washing over you, carrying away all tension, leaving only a quiet openness within. You find yourself walking along a narrow cobblestone path, its stones worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The path winds through rolling hills, each hill crowned with a sea of wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. The light is late afternoon gold-rich and warm, spilling through breaks in the clouds, painting the hills with strokes of light and shadow that seem to move as if alive. The air here is sweet layered with the scent of jasmine, lavender, and the faint tang of earth warmed by the sun. Somewhere nearby, hidden by the folds of the land, you hear the murmur of flowing water, steady, calming, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Each sound and scent seems to slow your steps, inviting you to linger, to notice. Ahead of you walks a woman, Elena, mid-30s, her hands, though delicate, or smudged with colors greens and blues and golds that hint at recent creation. Her eyes carry a spark, that rare mixture of curiosity and depth, the kind that suggests she is always half in this world, half in another. Loose strands of dark hair escape from the knot at the back of her head, catching the sunlight like threads of silk over her. Shoulder hangs a worn leather satchelet's shape softened by years of use, heavy with brushes, sketchbooks, and jars of pigment. She pauses occasionally, consulting a folded piece of paper hand-drawn, the lines wavering slightly, the ink faded. In places, it's a map given to her by an elderly monk at the village market. He had pressed it into her hand without explanation, murmuring only where sacred geometry meets the soul. Now, as she follows the sketched lines through the hills, she speaks softly to herself. It should be just around this bend. Her voice is quiet, but tinged with anticipation, like someone on the edge of uncovering something long imagined but never seen. The path curves Sandalina, stops. Her breath catches. Before her lies a garden unlike anything she has ever encountered. It's not simply beautiful, it's precise. Every plant, every stone, every curve of the pathway is arranged with intention, as if the ground itself had been composed like a symphony. The arrangement radiates from a central point in concentric circles, perfect, balanced, alive. It is a living mandala. Outer rings blaze with reds and oranges that seem to hum with warmth. Moving inward, the colors shift gently to yellows, then soft greens, then deep blues and violets, until finally, at the very center, a pool of still water cradles pure white lotus blossoms, each one pristine, glowing, as though lit from within. Oh, voice, warm and resonant, drifts through the air. Welcome, daughter of creativity. Startled, Alina turns. From behind a grove of flowering trees, a man steps forward. His hair is silver, catching the light like fine threads of starlight. His robe is simple, the deep, muted brown of earth after rain. His eyes, ancient, yet playful, holding the weight of decades of contemplation and the sparkle of a soul still in wonder. "I am Brother Marcus," he says, hands clasped loosely before him. "Guardian of this sacred space, student of the patterns that connect all things. And you, Alina, are here because your soul seeks to remember the harmony that lives within apparent chaos." She blinks, caught between amazement and curiosity. "How do you know my name? And what do you mean, patterns?" Brother Marcus smiles, not in a way that answers, but in a way that invites. He gestures for her to follow him along the gently spiraling path. They walk slowly, the sound of their footsteps softened by moss and smooth stone. As they move, Alina begins to notice the subtleties, the perfect symmetry of how vines climb, the exact spacing between blossoms, the gentle curves that never feel forced, yet are deliberate. Beside a trellis wound with morning glories, Marcus stops. "Tell me," he says, "what do you see here, not with your eyes alone, but with the part of you that recognizes truth?" Alina leans closer, tracing the motion of the vines with her gaze. Purple blooms open toward the fading sun, their stems curling in spirals that are precise, familiar. There, growing in spirals, but not random. They follow a kind of code. Her breath catches the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio like in seashells, galaxies, the nautilus shell. Marcus nods. Sacred geometry, the language the universe uses to weave beauty and order into existence. You have been chasing this language without knowing its name. In every stroke of your art, they walk deeper into the garden. Alina begins to feel something subtle but undeniable, like her whole body is adjusting to a quiet rhythm that was always there, waiting. The ground beneath their feet is patterned in arcs and curves of stone that seem to massage the soles of her feet with each step. "I've always felt incomplete," she admits softly, "like my art was beautiful, but hollow somehow, like I was missing the essence." They stop at a ring of sunflowers tall and golden, their faces heavy with seeds spiraled in perfect mathematical precision. Marcus kneels, running his fingers over the pattern. "These flowers," he says, "do not strive to be beautiful. They simply express the perfection already written in their being. They trust the geometry woven into their very DNA. That is why they flourish without effort." Alina kneels beside him, her fingers almost trembling as she traces the spirals. "And if I could do the same, if I could create from that place." Marcus stands, his robe brushing softly against the flowers. "That is the reason you have been led here. This garden is not just for seeing, it is for remembering. It is a training ground for the soul." They move to the next ring-flowering bushes in perfect pentagonal formation. At the center, a curved stone bench waits as if it has been expecting. "Her, sit," Marcus instructs, as she lowers herself onto the cool stone. Alina feels an immediate rightness, like her body has been placed in a chord that is perfectly in tune. She can see the five-fold symmetry around her, and beyond it, the vast mandala stretching outward. "Close your eyes," Marcus says gently. "Do not think, feel." The air around her seems to shift. She becomes aware of something invisible. Energy, subtle but steady, flowing from the geometry into her. Her breathing deepens without effort. A heaviness lifts from her shoulders. What you feel, Marcus explains, is your nervous system remembering coherence. Sacred geometry does not just please the eye, it restores the soul. She exhales slowly. It's like being tuned. Yes, Marcus says, smiling, because you are. The light is fading now, and the shadows of the patterned plants fall across the path in shapes that seem alive, shifting with the setting sun. Marcus's voice becomes softer, as if blending with the evening air. Come, the heart of the garden awaits. They continue inward, passing rings that shift from earthy reds to heart-centered greens, then to deep blues and violets, until, at last, they reach the still, white-lit Centera pool, a lotus, 12 meditation cushions, perfectly placed. Choose any, Marcus says, for all are in perfect relationship to the center. Alina sits. Stillness settles over her like a gentle cloak. The water mirrors her face, and yet there is a glow there she does not recognize. Marcus's words float across the water. You are the center of your own sacred circle. When you remember this, life arranges itself into patterns of harmony around you. Alina breathes in, and the lotus breathes with her. The evening sky had deepened into a gradient of lavender and indigo, the first stars appearing like quiet notes on a sheet of celestial music. In the center of the mandala, the pool reflected both the heavens above and the white lotus blossoms floating in absolute stillness. The air was cooler now, and the faint scent of night-blooming jasmine rose like a prayer from the surrounding garden. Alina sat in silence for a long moment, feeling as though her heartbeat had slowed to match the rhythm of the garden itself. She noticed her breaths lengthening, as if her lungs had more space than before. It was not a forced commit, was the kind of peace that happens when nothing is missing. Brother, Marcus moved with the ease of someone who had walked these paths thousands of times. He returned from a small alcove, carrying a wooden box polished by years of handling. Kneeling beside her, he opened it with deliberate slowness, revealing tools unlike any she had seen: small compasses of bronze, strings with beads at measured intervals, thin sticks carved with markings, and pieces of parchment filled with patterns. These, Marcus said, are not mere instruments. They are keys, each one unlocking a different doorway into understanding. He handed her a small compass. You will draw your first circle here, not on paper, but in the earth. She hesitated. Here, in the middle of all this, perfection. Marcus's smile was patient. Perfection is not fragile. It does not break when touched. It expands. She knelt, the cool earth under her fingers. With the compass, she traced a circle in the fine sand around the pool. The motion was smooth, the line precise. As she finished, she noticed how even this simple act shifted something inside her. The circle wasn't just a shape it felt alive. Marcus crouched beside her, using the beaded string to divide her circle into 6 equal parts. The circle, he said softly, is the symbol of unity, eternity, and balance. Every form in sacred geometry begins here. It is the womb of creation, it continued, adding overlapping circles to form the flower of life. With each layer, Alina felt her shoulders loosen further, as if the patterns themselves were pulling tension out of her body. You see, Marcus continued, these forms are not human inventions. They are found in the growth of crystals, in the orbit of planets, in the unfolding of leaves. When you work with them, you are not creating, you are remembering. Hours might have passed or minutes. Time had dissolved. The garden was now bathed in moonlight, every leaf tipped with silver. Elena's patterns grew more complex, triangles within circles, hexagons blossoming into stars. Her fingers moved without hesitation, guided by something deeper than thought. At one point, she stopped, realizing her breathing matched the arc of her movements. It feels like I'm part of something bigger, as if the pattern is drawing me. Marcus's eyes gleamed in the soft light. That is the truth. You are not separate from the design. You are the design. They paused to sip from a small clay cup Marcus had brought warm herbal tea infused with mint and chamomile. The steam curled upward, catching the moonlight like strands of silk. Alina cradled the cup in her hands, feeling its gentle heat. For a moment, no words were needed. After the tea, Marcus led her to the outer rings of the mandala. Here, the plants grew wilder, less obviously structured. At first glance, it seemed chaos, but then she began to see the hidden symmetry, the way certain flowers clustered in repeating distances, the rhythm of shadows across the ground, the alternating heights of plants like a quiet visual music. Nature, Marcus explained, does not impose order by force. It reveals it gradually, like a secret only the patient can hear. They stopped before a patch of moonflowers wide, pale blooms glowing faintly in the night. Marcus gestured for her to close her eyes. Listen, he whispered. At first, all she heard was the gentle rustle of leaves. Then, a softer sound emerged, the nearly imperceptible opening of petals. A slow unfurling like a deep breath taken in the dark. Alina opened her eyes in awe. They're moving right now. Yes, Marcus said. They open to the night. Because they trust the darkness will bring what they need. Even without the sun, they thrive. Alina felt the words land in her chest. Perhaps this was her own lesson, trusting the unseen, allowing creation to flow even when clarity wasn't present. They returned toward the center, and Marcus stopped before a stone fountain carved in the shape of intertwined spirals. Flowed gently from its top, following channels that guided it in perfect symmetry before spilling into the basin below. The sound was hypnotic, steady, rhythmic, eternal. Water, Marcus said, is the perfect student of geometry. It flows wherever the pattern allows it, never forcing, never resisting. That is why it wears down mountains without haste, without violence. Alina ran her fingers along the spirals, feeling the coolness of the stone, the constant pulse of the water. She thought about her own art, the times she had tried to force inspiration, and how those works had always felt empty. Perhaps, she thought, creation needed to be less about control and more about alignment. The moon now stood high overhead, silvering the entire mandala. Marcus turned to her with a final instruction for the night. Tomorrow, you will plant not just seeds, but intentions. Every pattern here began with a single point, and every life you create will begin the same way. Alina felt the weight of those words. She wasn't entirely sure what intentions she would plant, but she knew they would come quietly. Like the moonflowers, when the moment was right, they parted for the night, Marcus disappearing into a small dwelling at the edge of the garden. Alina lay in a simple guest room with open shutters, the night air brushing her skin. From her bed, she could still see the white lotus at the center of the pool, luminous in the moonlight she drifted into. Sleep not with the restlessness she usually carried, but with the soft, steady rhythm of the garden's breath. The morning came quietly, as if the sun itself didn't wish to disturb the stillness of the mandala garden. A pale mist floated low over the ground, softening every edge. The air was cool and scented with damp earth, and somewhere in the distance, a single bird began to sing, not loudly, but with a clear, unwavering tone that seemed to set the rhythm for the day. Alina rose early, drawn by a pull she couldn't name. She stepped outside barefoot, feeling the cool dew on her skin. Each blade of grass bowed slightly under the weight of water droplets, catching the first light of day like tiny prisms. Inhaled deeply, the crisp air filling her lungs with a kind of freshness she hadn't felt in years. Brother Marcus was already there, waiting in the center of the mandala beside a low wooden table. On it rested small bowls filled with seeds, different shapes, sizes, and colors. Some were smooth and pale, others dark and ridged, like tiny pieces of carved wood. "This," he said, gesturing to the table, "is the real work. Everything you have learned in patterns, in shapes, in quiet observation now, you bring it into matter." He handed her a shallow basket. "Today, you plant not only in the soil, but also in the fabric of your own life." Alina touched the seeds with reverence, as if each one were alive with a silent heartbeat. Marcus showed her where to begin, along the eastern arc of the mandala, where the first rays of the sun would fall. As they knelt together, the world seemed to shrink to the sound of their hands meeting the soil, the rustle of seeds being placed, the faint exhale of breath. Before each seed, Marcus instructed, "Close your eyes. Hold it between your palms. Think of a single quality you wish to grow: patience, courage, joy, clarity, and send it into the seed. Then plant it gently." She began with patience, pressing the small round seed into the earth and covering it with a thin veil of soil. Next came courage, then gratitude, then abundance. With each planting, she felt a quiet stirring inside her, as though something deep was answering back. After a time, Marcus led her to the central pool. The lotus flowers floated motionless, but in their stillness was an undeniable vitality. "Everything in this garden," he said, "is born twice, once in thought, once in matter. The thought comes first, always." He handed her a single white lotus petal that had fallen onto the water surface. "Take this with you," he said. "It will remind you that creation begins in silence." They continued planting through the morning, moving along the mandala's curves. At one section, Marcus paused and gestured for her to look more closely. A spiral of young plants was emerging. From the soilage, a different species, yet all growing in precise proportion to one another. "This," he said, "is what happens when you trust the pattern. The pattern always knows." The sun climbed higher, and the mist lifted. Warmth began to seep into the earth. Alina noticed how her body moved without strain, her breathing easy and deep. She wasn't hurrying. She wasn't forcing. She was simply part of it. By midday, the last seeds were in place. They stood in silence, looking at the work they had done not a garden of full blooms, but a tapestry of beginnings. Alina realized that the beauty was not in what she saw now, but in the invisible promise of what would come. Marcus turned to her with a look that was both kind and unyielding. "You must remember," he said, "that growth is rarely visible at first. The soil will seem quiet, the surface unchanged. But beneath, life will be moving toward the light. You must have the patience to let it." They returned to the central pool for the final time. The lotus blossoms were now fully open, each petal catching the sunlight in soft gradients of white and gold. Alina knelt by the water's edge and touched its surface lightly with her fingertips. The ripples spread outward, touching every part of the pool before returning to stillness. In that moment, she understood. Her life, too, could hold this kind of symmetry. She didn't need to rush, to force, to push. She could trust that the seeds, both literal and unseen, were already finding their way upward. Marcus spoke one last time. "The mandala garden will remember you, and you will carry its pattern wherever you go. Even when your hands are empty, you will still be planting." As the afternoon light softened into gold, Alina walked the paths one last time. The air was alive with the hum of bees, the scent of herbs warming in the sun, the quiet pulse of life arranging itself in harmony. She felt no urge to capture the moment, no need to hold on. It was enough to have been part of it. When she finally left the garden, the white lotus petal lay in her pama, silent reminder that everything begins in stillness, and that the invisible is often the most powerful part of creation. Close your eyes gently now, and take in a deep, unhurried breath, letting it travel all the way down into your belly. And then exhale slowly, as if you were letting go of every heavy thought you've carried today. Feel the way your shoulders drop just a little, the way your jaw softens, the way your body begins to surrender to the quiet rhythm of this moment. Let your mind rest like a still lake after a long storm, the surface smooth, calm, reflecting only peace. In your mind's eye, see yourself walking along a winding mountain trail, the path rising steadily before you. Mist curls and dances between the tall pines, wrapping the world in a veil of mystery. The air is so fresh, you can almost taste it, carrying the faint scent of pine needles warmed by the morning sun, and the delicate sweetness of wildflowers that cling to the edges of the path. With each step, your feet feel lighter, as though the earth itself is lifting you forward, and every breath draws you deeper into a space far away from the noise of your everyday life. Ahead of you walks Robert, a man of 45, his tailored suit looking oddly out of place against the wild beauty of the mountain. For years, he has carried invisible burdens across his shoulders, the deadlines, the decisions, the constant hum of responsibility, until the weight became almost a part of him. At first, his steps are brisk, impatient, the rhythm of someone trained to outrun time. But something here, in this sacred ascent, begins to soften his pace, as if the mountain itself whispers, "Slow down, you are safe here." In his hand, he holds a small, weathered piece of paper, the edges curled, the ink faded, but still legible. He found it on his desk after a day that had nearly broken him. The handwriting was delicate, almost ceremonial, and the words were few. When the inner noise becomes unbearable, seek the temple of silence atop the mountain of serenity. Robert had laughed at first, a quick, humorless sound, felt absurd, the kind of strange note someone might leave as a joke. But something inside him, something quieter than thought, older than reason, urged him to follow. And so, here he is, climbing, breathing air that feels cleaner than anything he's ever known, under a sky that seems to expand with every step. The mist thickens as they ascend, muffling sound until even the crunch of gravel underfoot grows faint. The distant calls of birds fade. The rustle of leaves becomes only memory. Even the sound of his own breathing seems softer now. And then, as if stepping through an unseen curtain, Robert emerges from the fog and stops in place. His breath catches. His eyes widen. For there, carved into the very bones of the mountain, stands the Temple of Silence. Walls are of pale stone, glowing faintly as though lit from within, not by sunlight, but by some deeper source. The architecture is simple, unadorned, yet so perfectly balanced that just looking at it makes something inside you exhale. A smooth stairway of polished stone leads upward to an arched doorway. Above it, words are etched with quiet authority. Silence is the language of God. Slowly, Robert climbs the steps, each one feeling less like movement and more like entering another state of being. The sound of his own footfalls dissolves into the profound hush surrounding the temple. At the entrance, from the shadows within, a figure emerges, a monk in simple gray robes, his presence calm yet powerful, his eyes deep with a stillness that seems to see through all pretense. "Welcome, weary traveler," the monk speaks. And though his voice is barely above a whisper, it carries perfectly in the crystalline air. "I am Brother Thomas, guardian of this sanctuary. You have come because your soul longs for what the world cannot give, true peace." Robert hesitates, feeling the awkward contrast between his expensive suit and the ancient stones. "I'm not sure why I came. I found this note, and lately my mind just won't stop. I can't focus, can't rest. It's like my thoughts are chasing me." Brother Thomas nods slowly, as though hearing something he has heard 1,000 times, yet treating it as if it were the most important truth in the world. "The illness of our age," he says gently, "minds that have forgotten how to be. Still, come, let me show you what silence truly is." He turns, and Robert follows him inside. The moment they cross the threshold, the world changes. The silence here is not just the absence of noise. It is a living presence, wrapping around him like warm light. The main hall is circular, the dome above pulling the gaze upward, as though inviting the mind to lift beyond itself. Candles burn in alcoves along the walls, each flame steady, unshaken. In the center, a fountain flows, but instead of water, it streams with something that looks like liquid light, spilling without a sound into the basin below. Brother Thomas gestures to a simple cushion facing the fountain. "Sit. For now, do nothing else. Just notice the silence here." Robert lowers himself onto the cushion, expecting discomfort, but instead finding it strangely grounding. Within moments, he realizes something astonishing. The usual swarm of thoughts that fill his head is gone. What remains is not emptiness, but a vast, open clarity. It's Spacious, he whispers, his own voice sounding distant and unfamiliar in this sacred quiet. Yes, says Brother Thomas, sitting beside him. True silence is not the absence of thought, but the presence of pure awareness. Robert breathes more slowly now, shoulders dropping as tension drains from his body. For the first time in decades, he is not running from one thought to the next. He is simply here. How is this possible? He asks. Is it something? In the air. Brother Thomas smiles faintly. No, it is the way this temple was built. Every curve of the dome, every placement of the candles, every vibration of the fountain, all designed to bring the human mind back to its natural state of peace. He rises and retrieves a smooth stone from a nearby alcove, placing it into Robert's palm. This will be your practice stone. When you hold it, give it your full attention, its weight, its texture, its warmth. In doing so, you will learn the first step to carrying silence with you. Robert closes his fingers around the stone and feels, impossibly, that it is pulsing, as if alive. And in that stillness, a thought comes, not as a noise, but as a whisper. Perhaps peace has been waiting for me all along. Robert sat in the stillness, the smooth stone resting in his palm, feeling its weight as if it anchored him to the present moment. The air in the temple seemed to hum, not with sound, but with presence, subtle vibration that seemed to move through his bones, calming every restless corner of his mind. Brother Thomas remained beside him, his breathing so steady that Robert began to unconsciously match it, each inhale and exhale slowing until the rhythm felt as natural as the beating of his heart. Time here was different. Minutes, hours, they seemed to dissolve, replaced by something softer, something without edges. After what could have been moments or a lifetime, Brother Thomas spoke again. The world you come from, he said softly, teaches you to fill every space. Every silence must be broken with words, every pause filled with movement, every day crowded with more than it can hold. But here, we do the opposite. We empty. We let the spaces breathe. Robert turned the stone in his hand, feeling the coolness against his fingertips. I've spent my life chasing things, he admitted, his voice low. Deadlines, goals, numbers on a screen. And yet, the more I chase, the more it feels like I'm losing something I can't name. Brother Thomas looked at him with a kind of gaze that seemed to hold centuries. You are not alone in that. Most who find their way here are not lost in the wilderness of the world, but in the wilderness of their own mind. He rose, motioning for Robert to follow. They walked slowly down a narrow corridor, lit by shafts of golden light that streamed through high, arched windows. Dust motes floated in the air like tiny stars, drifting without hurry. The stone beneath their feet was worn smooth by generations of footsteps, each one belonging to someone who had come seeking the same thing Robert sought now. The corridor opened into a garden enclosed within the temple walls, a sanctuary within. A sanctuary. Here, everything was alive, but utterly quiet. The leaves of the trees moved gently, without making a sound. A small pool reflected the sky, its surface broken only by the slow glide of a koi fish, whose colors shimmered like molten gold. Robert felt something loosen inside him. The beauty here was not loud, not demanding attention. It simply existed. And that was enough. This is the Garden of Breath, Brother Thomas explained. It is where we practice the art of listening, not with the ears, but with the heart. You will spend 1 hour here each day, doing nothing but noticing. Robert hesitated. Noticing what? Noticing the way sunlight rests on a leaf. Noticing the way air moves against your skin. Noticing the way thoughts rise and fall without. Your effort in noticing, you will remember. Robert wanted to ask, remember what? But something in the monk's tone told him that the answer would not come through words. They sat beside the pool. The silence here was so complete, it felt like a living thing, wrapping itself around him like a cloak. His breathing deepened without conscious effort, and his mind, so used to running, began to walk instead. For the first time in years, Robert wasn't thinking about tomorrow or replaying yesterday. He was simply sitting by a pool, watching the gentle ripple of water as the koi fish passed beneath the surface. Brother Thomas eventually broke the quiet. Silence is not a punishment, he said. It is not the absence of life. It is the space in which life can truly be heard. Robert thought of the noise he had left behind, emails, phone calls, the constant churn of demands. It felt like another lifetime. And when I leave here, he asked, how do I take this with me? Brother Thomas smiled faintly. Silence is not a place you visit. It is a seed you plant. What you do here is tend to that seed, so that when you return to your life, it will grow roots deep enough to survive the noise. As the sun began to sink behind the garden walls, the light shifted, turning the pool into a mirror of amber and gold. Robert felt something inside him, some restless, invisible knot begin to unravel. He didn't have the right words for it yet, but he sensed that whatever he had come here to find, it had already begun to find him. That night, Robert was given a small, simple room. The walls were bare stone. The bed, nothing more than a wooden frame with a thin mattress. And yet, it felt like the most peaceful place he had ever entered. A single candle flickered on the windowsill, its flame swaying gently as if it too were breathing. Outside, the night was velvet dark, the stars scattered in uncountable numbers across the sky. He lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling beams, listening not to cars or voices or hums of electricity, but to something quieter, something deeper. It was the sound of his own breath, slow and unhurried, and beneath that, the steady, subtle rhythm of his heartbeat. It was as if the temple itself had begun to teach him in silence. Sleep came easily, and with it, dreams unlike any he had known in years. He dreamed of walking through a vast desert where every grain of sand whispered a truth he had once forgotten. He dreamed of rivers that spoke in colors, of trees whose leaves shimmered with the laughter of children he had never met. In each dream, there was a stillness, not emptiness, but fullness. When morning came, Brother Thomas was already waiting for him at the garden gate. Today, the monk said, we go beyond the outer silence. Robert followed as they crossed the courtyard and entered a passageway that spiraled downward. Carved into the very bedrock of the mountain, the air grew cooler with each step, carrying the scent of stone and earth untouched for centuries. They emerged into a circular chamber lit by a single beam of light that fell from an opening high above. In the center sat an ancient wooden chair, its surface smoothed by countless hands. Brother Thomas gestured for Robert to sit. "This," he said, "is where we listen for the sound beyond sound." Robert frowned slightly. "I thought silence was the point." "True silence," Thomas replied, "is never empty. It is the doorway to what has always been speaking, but too softly for a noisy mind to hear." Robert closed his eyes. At first, there was nothing but the faint echo of his own breath. Then, slowly, he became aware of something else, not exactly a sound, more like a presence. It was the sensation of being held by something vast and kind, something that had no urgency, no judgment, no demands. It felt ancient, like the memory of the ocean, like the warmth of sunlight that had traveled millions of miles just to touch his skin. "This," Thomas whispered, though Robert wasn't sure if he heard it with his ears or somewhere deeper, "is where you remember you are more than what you do, more than your successes or your mistakes, more than your plans and fears. This is where you remember you are life itself." Robert sat there for what felt like hours, though time no longer had edges. When he finally opened his eyes, the beam of light had shifted, now casting its glow on the floor before him. Something in him had shifted too. They walked back in silence, but this time, the silence was not something around him, it was something within him. Days passed in the temple. Each morning, Robert tended the garden. Each afternoon, he sat in the chamber of stillness, and each night, he watched the stars, realizing they were not distant strangers, but old friends he had simply forgotten how to greet. On his final day, Brother Thomas handed him the smooth stone he had first given him. "It has never been just a stone," the monk said. "It is a reminder. When the world grows loud again, hold it, feel its weight. Remember the sound beyond sound." Robert closed his fingers around it, feeling the cool, grounding touch. "And if I lose it," Brother Thomas smiled, "then you will remember that silence was never in the stone. It has always been in you." As Robert walked away from the temple, the world beyond its walls was exactly as it had been: busy, noisy, restless. But something in him was different now. He no longer feared the noise, because he carried within him a place it could never reach. And sometimes, in the middle of a crowded street, or during the rush of a busy day, he would feel the stone in his pocket, close his eyes, and hear it again, that quiet, steady presence that was not the absence of life, but the very essence of it. The temple had taught him that silence was not a retreat from the world. It was a way of walking through it, listening for the truth that had always been there, waiting patiently to be heard.